Yeah, let's take a look at the Browns. Let's continue this conversation. The quarterback depth chart as it stands right now. Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett, co-QB1s as we wait for the decision on Deshaun Watson. Josh Dobbs in there. Josh Rosen as well, who signed a couple weeks ago. Deshaun, 20-1 to lead the league in passing yards. Of course, that is going to change. Jacoby Brissett, last season with Miami, 2-3 as a starter. 63% completion percentage, just over 1,200 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. All right, so as we wait for news on Deshaun Watson, we have our Josina Anderson at Cleveland Browns training camp for us. Josina, all the questions right now, of course, revolving around Deshaun. What might be coming down in terms of a suspension? What's the mood around camp regarding that, and what's the latest?
Well, the latest is obviously even before getting here, at least the AP was reporting more specifically that they heard that there was not going to be a decision today. I can tell you last week when I was talking to sources around the situation, one of the things that they said, one, is that they didn't anticipate it last week, but they also said, she's not going to do it on a Friday. That was just their feeling. No necessarily basis for that in terms of hearing that specifically from Sue. I'm just really conveying a feeling. And then here we are coming into this week. At the beginning of this week, I kind of asked the same sources how they felt about it, and I reported that they said it's possible, but they, didn't kind of want to go beyond that. And I think more towards as the week began to unfold, I was hearing and feeling that sounded more like hope and optimism, rather than obviously anything concrete. You just kept hearing, people say, we're on Sue's time, still haven't heard anything, and had not received any specific indications from the judge that it was coming last week. Obviously, that didn't come this week either. We also not anticipating that was going to come on a Friday. Not that it can't, but I do feel like the league would incur some sort of kind of media backlash and perhaps fan backlash just from the perception that it would look like a Friday news dump. So here we are. The decision is still looming. I just sat down with Nick Chubb within the last 30 minutes and was just asking him about what he felt like was the impact of the fact that it is still looming, and whether he feels like Deshaun Watson has been handling the scrutiny so far. And I can tell you just from behind the scenes talking to sources, somebody told me like last week, they said that he came in here, that he actually had like a different lift in his step, just becoming more acclimated to the situation. Of course, I'm trying to figure out, did he hear anything that I haven't heard, with respect to the decision that is coming? But you're hearing that from multiple players, just continuing to say that, he's evolving into his role as a leader of the team. He's not forcing the relationships, obviously getting more acclimated with the offense. Kevin Stefanski underlining to the media that, it is obviously their due diligence to split reps between Deshaun Watson and Jacoby Brissett as we wait for what is happening. But the longer that training camp goes and he's able to, continue to get more reps underneath his belt with that respect, obviously that helps the team.
How does that QB situation set up as we wait for the Deshaun situation? I mean, we saw the depth chart. We know it's going to be Jacoby Brissett if Deshaun is suspended. So how does it set up that QB room with those 4 quarterbacks in there?
Well, first of all, let's just say that was always the expectation. Even though they recently signed Josh Rosen, that was never not the expectation. So that is, for me, not a headline. That's what was expected. Going back into the offseason with the various times that I've been here, one of the ways that Jacoby Brissett has been described to me as specifically by sources is just that the view on him is that he's one of the better number 2 or backup quarterbacks in the league. Not that he can't be a starter. He's had starts, but with respect to what we know that his role here is with the organization. Now, you were mentioning his record the last time he played, 2-3 with the Colts. I believe you said he had 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, over 66 completion percentage or what have you. They know that he can run this offense. They have confidence in that. And particularly when you mentioned the first 4 games of the season, I don't know if you want to talk about how designed that was relative to the schedule makers or what have you. But when you're talking about strength of schedule, that is relatively on the easier side with respect to just holding down the fort and teams that have, gone long into the postseason or what have you. So the table is set for him to be able to do that. If that is the case relative to the suspensions, I think the talk really comes in what happens if Jacoby Brissett goes down. Do they have the correct pieces if that were to happen? I know you don't want to think about doomsday, but we've talked about, Josh Dobbs. obviously, a quarterback in his right. If you're a quarterback in the NFL, you deserve respect. But you're just underlining the fact of the no starts there and the fact that Josh Rosen has had several steps in his career prior to coming here. So you just wonder if that is the best move for the team. Obviously, they feel that it is, but clearly, there's a conversation around that relative to who was just here and Baker Mayfield and potentially could have stayed here and obviously went to Carolina.
Certainly fingers crossed when it comes to Browns fans that quarterback situation doesn't get even more complicated if Deshaun's suspended and Brissett goes down. All right. Former Browns quarterback, you mentioned Baker Mayfield. He was not happy to see one of his Browns jerseys at Carolina camp. He will see his old team in week 1. What's the feeling about Baker Mayfield coming back to take on the Browns?
Well, I am waiting, hopefully, to interview Jadavian Clowney, and I want to ask him, if he has anything tuned up specifically to go up against his former quarterback here. I'm sure there is a lot of anticipation, particularly for Baker for that. I just think when you go back to the timing of the decision to go ahead and trade Baker Mayfield, just from a gamesmanship standpoint, that is a lot of time to give the team that you are facing week 1 of the season to be able to allow Baker Mayfield to get that acclimation of the playbook. And I think one of the things that I noted about that, just in kind of knowing and having conversations with the front office here, what have you, and just kind of watching how things played out with Odell Beckham Jr., my feeling is that they, despite all of the things and how they transpired last season, ultimately want to do right by the player and have empathy for an adverse situation that a player has gone through. The other side of that is continuing to play your best hand and having, the gamesmanship of it, and it'll just be, I think, a big storyline focused week 1 as to, how all of that played out. Whether they should have held on to Baker just because he is under contract and you could have afforded it, and just how it ends up working out, assuming that Baker is the starter for the Carolina Panthers as early as week 1, when these two teams clashed right away, and everyone's going to be measuring up that decision and how things are beginning to work as the organization and the quarterback begin to start their different respective paths. But I think it's going to be extremely fascinating. If you're asking my personal opinion, I would have particularly kept on to him, no matter how awkward it would be. I think that was the best scenario for the team relative to the quarterback play. But it is done. It is gone with. Can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And so we will all discuss it week 1.
Cleveland at Carolina, week 1, September 11th, a game that will be available on CBS. All right, so the Browns looks like they're going to start the season with Jacoby Brissett, and that likely means more work for running back Nick Chubb. You spoke to him. How's he feeling about the situation with the offense at present?
Well, this is interesting. He's going into his 5th year with the team, 3rd year with Kevin Stefanski. I think it's a very interesting scenario for him with just a couple of things. One, the fact that he has extra comfort in Kevin Stefanski's system. 2, when you look at the fact that there are 3 really good running backs here in Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and also Dearness Johnson, who began to emerge when both Hunt and Chubb had their various injuries last year. I believe he had 2 starts, was out there 3 times having at least 100-plus yards. One of them was just shy of that, I believe, in 99, but with 99 yards. But Chubb just told me when we were sitting down that he, that there is room to share, and he's comfortable sharing, because I asked him, does he think all 3 running backs get the opportunity in this offense? And he said that he was comfortable sharing and that he did feel that. But the last thing, too, that I was just trying to point out to him, when you look about the different composition with the wide receivers here, with Amari Cooper now being, WR1 and Donovan Peoples-Jones being asked to step up a little bit more. No Jarvis Landry, remember, no OBJ. Do they anticipate Nick Chubb being used more as a receiver to kind of help fill that gap, particularly with the familiarity with this offense? So, he was being a little bit coy about it, saying, they haven't had enough camp time to really know that. But take it from your girl behind the scenes. That's what I'm hearing, that there'll be more utilization from him with respect to the receiving game. He had his most usage as a receiver with Freddie Kitchens as the head coach back in 2019. So that's the most he's been used as a receiver then. And I think he could see closer towards those targets. I think that was 46 receiving targets back in 2019, averaging about 21, 22 under Kevin Stefanski. I think that gets closer to at least 30 plus in this year.
CBS Sports HQ NFL insider Josina Anderson fighting through flight delays, cancellations, all kinds of weather. Great to have you at Cleveland training camp, Josina. Good to see you. We're going to hear from you throughout the afternoon. And in terms of our training camp schedule, it continues today. Josina's in Cleveland. We have Jonathan Jones in San Francisco. We hope to hear from him later today. And the Dallas Cowboys coming up on Saturday. JJ will be there. We'll have the Super Bowl champion Rams on Monday, and then the Carolina Panthers as well to start next week.
Instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.